Well, you are kind of Butch. Performances of Masculinity in Supernatural and its Jen Hurt Comfort fanfiction by Amanda Straw, Penn State Harrisburg, Master of Arts in American Studies. Author's note. This paper was given orally at the PCA-ACA conference in San Antonio in 2011. This is the reason for the non-standard citation style. Works cited are at the end. Introduction. At the heart of the CW television series Supernatural is the relationship between brothers Dean and Sam Winchester. Many episodes explore the unique dynamics of the Winchester family and the roles that each member plays within it. Dean's typical role is the older brother/surrogate father. His job, he feels, is to protect and care for younger brother Sam. Sam begins the series as the hot-tempered rebel who resents what he perceives as his father's and brother's attempts to control him. Patriarch John Winchester is a former Marine who raised his sons, quote, like warriors, moving them across the country and neglecting them so much of the time that they developed an abnormally close and obsessive relationship. Writers of Supernatural Gen fanfiction explore this unusual and intense brotherly bond as it is portrayed in the series itself, as, quote, psychotically, irrationally, erotically codependent, but not explicitly sexual. One of the fanfiction tropes that best facilitates this exploration is the hurt comfort trope. In hurt comfort stories, the usual physical and emotional barriers between the boys break down as the hurt brother is forced to experience and openly display vulnerability, which threatens his masculine identity. Because the series protagonists are both male, the construction and performance of identity becomes a dominant theme. When the series began, Dean was depicted as the more masculine character, and Sam's behavior was often coded as feminine. Characterization in Supernatural tends to be dependent on binary oppositions. If one brother is depicted as overtly masculine, the other must appear to be not masculine or even overtly feminine in the same way. In this essay, I will explore the construction and performance of masculinity in both the series and the hurt comfort genre of fanfiction. One of the primary functions of supernatural fanfiction is to explore and elucidate character dynamics that are insufficiently developed on screen. Hurt comfort fanfiction, with its propensity to break down both physical and emotional boundaries between characters, makes it particularly suited to reimagining and reifying the characterizations of Sam and Dean as they are depicted in the series. In the beginning of the series, masculinity is Dean's defining character trait. In a 2000 article published in the Journal of Sport and Social Issues, Michael Messner and others described the image of a, quote, real man as extrapolated from televised sports commercials. A real man is, quote, strong, tough, aggressive, and above all, a winner in what is still a man's world. To be a winner, he has to do what needs to be done. He must avoid being soft. He must be the aggressor. But, quote, he will be reminded just how fragile this real manhood really is. After all, he has to come out and prove himself all over again tomorrow. Dean's introduction in the pilot episode establishes him as a real man immediately. He dominates Sam in hand-to-hand combat, literally topping him, jokes about looking for a beer, and openly lusts after Sam's attractive girlfriend. As the series progresses, Dean is depicted as promiscuous, violent, destructive, and emotionally stunted. Dean's role model is John, a Vietnam veteran who raised him to be a soldier first, a co-parent second, and a child last. Dean appears to view John as the perfect man, strong, self-reliant, unemotional, and unattached, and strives to live up to his example. As Dean's nightmare version of himself taunts him in the season 3 episode Dream a Little Dream of Me, quote, your car, that's Dad's. Your favorite leather jacket, Dad's. Your music, Dad's. Do you even have an original thought? The music and the car are two of the outward reflections of Dean's status as a real man. Sam calls Dean's music, quote, the greatest hits of mullet rock in the pilot, and it includes AC/DC, Ozzy Osbourne, and Metallica. All heavy metal bands with large male fan bases. The car, a black 1967 Chevrolet Impala, is alternately presented as extension of Dean's self and his significant other. In the season 2 episode In My Time of Dying, Sam sees the totaled Impala for the first time since the crash that ended season 1. Bobby tries to convince Sam to scrap the car, but Sam tells Bobby that, quote, if there's only one working part, that's enough. We're not just gonna give up on the car or Dean. 2 episodes later, the newly restored Impala cruises down a 2-lane road to the triumphant strains of AC/DC's Back in Black, and Sam tells Dean that, quote, if you two want to get a room, just let me know. To which Dean replies, quote, don't listen to him, baby. He doesn't understand us. Dean also engages in other behaviors coded as masculine, such as overeating unhealthy food, drinking to excess, and having one-night stands with beautiful women, which help create and reinforce Dean's masculine identity. In an article from a 2007 issue of Social Science and Medicine, James Mihalik and others suggest that traditional masculine ideals may lead to individual men adopting unhealthy behaviors that reflect those ideas. Will Courtney, in a 2001 article from the same journal, enumerates some of these behaviors, which include refusal to acknowledge weakness, constant maintenance of physical and emotional control, denial of any need for help, and the need to display the appearance of strength and good health in all circumstances. Dean displays all of these behaviors as early as episode 12, Faith. In the beginning of the episode, Dean suffers a massive heart attack after an accidental electrocution. After 3 days in the hospital, he signs himself out AMA and joins Sam at the local motel. Dean allows Sam to assist him in private, but when Dean is out in public, he shrugs off Sam's attempts to help him. Not once in the entire episode does Dean voice any physical or emotional pain. In the Season 2 episode Born Under a Bad Sign and the Season 3 episode Justin Bello, Dean takes a bullet in the shoulder. In neither episode does he express any discomfort to Sam directly, at least verbally. In its early years, Supernatural regularly portrays the boys in a physical-intellectual dichotomy, with Dean as the brawn and Sam as the brains of the operation. Sam often gets saddled with the exposition about an episode's given monster, and he is depicted as the better of the two at research. In the Season 4 episode It's a Terrible Life, alternate universe Dean mentions that his specialty is research, yet it is Sam who discovers the company's history and makes the connection to the recent events. In the rest of the series, Dean displays superior mechanical ability. In Season 1's 4th episode, Phantom Traveler, he uses an EMF meter that he made out of a Walkman cassette player, and in the 3rd season episode, Ghost Facers, he uses an electromagnet to destroy the amateur ghost hunter's hard drive. Sam, on the other hand, spends his time using the laptop or reading books, and Dean doesn't think much of his mechanical skills. Since Supernatural relies mostly on binary oppositions for characterization, if Dean is the masculine brother, Sam is necessarily the feminine brother. Certainly the early episodes of the series bear this out. In episode 5, Bloody Mary, Sam summons Bloody Mary using the classic slumber party trick of saying her name 3 times in front of an antique mirror. Later in that episode, Sam must be rescued by Dean when Mary attacks him. Also, Sam is the one who usually empathizes with the monsters, especially in the Season 4 episode Metamorphosis, and it is Sam who, until Season 4, tends to express his emotions freely, most often when his relationship with Dean is threatened. Even though Dean is clearly positioned as the more masculine of the brothers, there is one major aspect of Dean's character that is more feminine than masculine. Dean's role in the family when the brothers were young was co-parent and the closest thing to a mother that Sam ever knew. In the episodes Something Wicked from Season 1 and A Very Supernatural Christmas from Season 3, John's absence forces Dean to play parent. He makes sure Sam has enough to eat, protects him against outside threats, and even steals Christmas presents for him when it becomes clear that John will not be returning for Christmas. In adulthood, Dean is fiercely, even violently protective of Sam, and when Sam is murdered at the end of Season 2, Dean perceives Sam's death as his own failure, saying, quote, "I had one job, and I screwed it up. I guess that's what I do. I let down the people I love. I let Dad down, and now I guess I'm just supposed to let you down, too." In Something Wicked, 10-year-old Dean resents his situation, going so far as to shirk his responsibility of caring for 6-year-old Sam in order to get some time alone. Dean is swiftly punished for it by both his father and the circumstances. The monster their father is hunting attacks Sam, putting his life in danger. Tanya Michaels, in an essay from In the Hunt, claims that, quote, "Sam turned out smart, strong, and under the circumstances incredibly well-adjusted, which means Dean was almost as successful at mothering as he is at kicking demon butt every week." Dean may have been the nurturer in the Winchester family, but he consciously suppresses that aspect of his personality when interacting with outsiders. Dean's real man exterior is, in effect, overcompensation for his very unmasculine maternal tendencies. When Dean is about to die in the 3rd season finale No Rest for the Wicked, he tells Sam to, quote, "Remember what Dad taught you. Remember what I taught you." With that sentence construction, he effectively identifies himself as Sam's second parent. He even accepts the maternal burden of sacrificing his own needs to meet Sam's, which eventually leads him to literally sacrifice himself to a demon in exchange for Sam's life at the end of the second season. Dean's exaggerated demonstrations of masculinity outside the family, then, are a result of his resentment at his feminine maternal role within the family. Hurt comfort fanfiction stories in which Dean is the suffering character provide fan writers with numerous opportunities to subvert the Winchesters' typical relationship dynamics. When Dean is incapacitated, even mildly, he is unable to maintain an appearance of strength, confidence, and control, which threatens his masculinity. He becomes the dependent damsel in distress, while Sam becomes the alpha male and protective parent figure in a 180-degree reversal of roles. According to Health, Illness, and the Social Body by Peter Freund and Meredith McGuire, illness and injury, quote, can likewise be experienced as assaults on the identity, and on the ability to predict and control central aspects of one's own and one's loved ones' lives. Wrote Classique's I Drive All Night Just to Get Back Home, published on LiveJournal.com in 2008, depicts this kind of assault with unflinching honesty. The story begins when Dean is released from the hospital after a hunting accident that permanently injured his right leg. While he's staying with Bobby, he gets his first taste of how different his life will be from now on. Quote, he's still figuring out this new body, what's going to hurt it and what'll feel okay. He's been in pain before, but not like this, not this steady ache that makes it seem almost as if the leg weren't a real part of his body, almost as if it's an enemy soldier in disguise, an infiltrator, a traitor. Later, Sam convinces Dean to come back with him to Stanford and stay in the apartment he shares with his girlfriend Jessica. When Dean and Sam argue about Dean's intention to go on the road to look for their missing father, Sam takes Dean's cane away from him to prove a point, leaving him stranded in a kitchen chair. Dean reflects that, quote, he knows Sam is right. He can't deny everything when the physical evidence is so clear. He's so sick of being in pain all the time. His leg aches fiercely with no let-up. His whole body hurts ceaselessly. If he's on his feet for more than 10 minutes, his leg starts to buckle. Getting upstairs is like pulling teeth, and he could walk on water easier than he can walk across the kitchen without his cane. So goddammit, he knows he can't hunt, not alone. Understands it a hell of a lot better than Sam does. However, in the end, Sam agrees to leave California with Dean to hunt down the demon that killed their mother and Jess. Fan writers often use hurt comfort scenarios to explore the intense bond between Dean and Sam, who are implied to be soulmates in Season 5's Dark Side of the Moon. In Elizabeth Wallage's study of slash fiction in fanfiction and fan communities in the age of the internet, she defines intimatopia as, quote, a homosocial world in which the social closeness of the male characters engenders intimacy, and finds that a great number of slash stories, quote, enhance homosociality by isolating their characters alone, thus creating an intimate bond of two. This applies even to gen fanfiction about the Winchesters, as the brothers are extremely isolated socially. They live outside the law, having been declared dead after close to 3 years of evading arrest for numerous criminal charges, which, combined with the Winchester Code of Silence and their nomadic childhood, makes the perfect recipe for an almost sociopathic level of social isolation. With Dean's demonstrated reluctance to seek professional medical treatment as shown in Born Under a Bad Sign in Season 2 and I Know What You Did Last Summer in Season 4, the Winchesters' extreme isolation forces each brother to rely only upon the other to meet his needs, be they physical, emotional, or social. A good example of this comes from the 2007 story How to Save a Life by EFW of fanfiction.net. The story is set immediately after Born Under a Bad Sign, during which a demon-possessed Sam shoots Dean in the shoulder. Dean fears a hospital would report the bullet wound to the police, so he refuses to be treated in one. While injured, Dean feels, quote, disgusted with his body's inability to follow his brain's instructions. Courtney explains that, quote, males use health beliefs and behaviors to demonstrate dominant and hegemonic masculine ideals that clearly establish them as men, and finds that men tend to consider health-promoting behaviors feminine and reject them in order to appear more manly. At the end of the story, after Sam has treated the infected bullet wound with primitive techniques he learned from the internet and diagnosed Dean with a bone fracture besides, Dean tries to refuse Sam's suggestion to wear a sling to minimize the damage to his arm, and Sam snaps, quote, 4 days I've spent wondering if you were going to live or die. Of course you won't wear a sling, because you have a death wish. Finally, Dean acknowledges, to himself at least, that maybe he has, quote, other layers beneath the hegemonic masculine ideals that have been ingrained in him practically since birth, and acquiesces to wear the sling which will advertise his, quote, weakness to all who see him. Another of Dean's character traits that fan writers often explore in Hurt Comfort stories is his unwillingness to remain on the sidelines when he is injured or ill. Dean epitomizes Messner and others' real man as discussed earlier, willing to, quote, compromise his own long-term health by showing guts in the face of danger, and by playing hurt when he's injured. N.W. Hepcat's The Sound of Worlds Ending, published on LiveJournal.com in 2010, illustrates this perfectly. Author's note: the graphic on the screen right now is the art that I created that was the inspiration for The Sound of Worlds Ending, in a supernatural reverse bang. Back to the paper. In it, Dean begins to have trouble with coordination and muscle control, but resists testing that could reveal a serious illness. He decides that, quote, he'll keep hunting and probably die bloody, but he'll go out trying to save someone. He hides his worsening symptoms from John and Sam as best he can until, quote, his luck, such as it is, runs out on a hunt. He falls through a set of stairs and the monster throws him into a wall, injuring his spine and leaving him paralyzed. When Dean finds out, he, quote, starts to laugh. Here he's been afraid of winding up like Stephen Hawking due to some disease, and now he's going to be piloting a wheelchair anyway. When Sam tries to get him to calm down, Dean tells him that, quote, if there is a god, he is one malignant bastard. While in the hospital, Dean is diagnosed with relapsing-remitting multiple sclerosis in addition to the spinal fracture. However, by the time the story ends, Dean has evidently learned from his experience and, quote, dropped the macho crap, since, quote, he'd found it went a lot better in PT when he wasn't trying to show off his big cast iron balls. In conclusion, the construction and performance of masculinity is a major theme in Supernatural. When the series begins, Dean is presented as the real man, the alpha male in the fraternal relationship, while Sam is regularly coded as less masculine and, at times, outright feminine. Much of Dean's identity is predicated on his role as the protector, since, as a child, Dean was forced to become a surrogate parent to younger brother Sam. Writers of Jen's supernatural Hurt Comfort fanfiction like to reverse the brothers' roles in their stories. When Dean is the suffering character, he wrestles with his feelings of emasculation at being the weaker, quote, damsel in distress, while Sam becomes the alpha male and primary protector. Dean has difficulty accepting the loss of control and the dependency involved in this role reversal, which creates significant emotional turmoil for him. However, these stories usually resolve with Dean realizing his limitations and adjusting his behavior accordingly.